Welcome to Antenna's State of Subscriptions for Q3 2026. The topic for this session is specialty streaming. For those who might be new to Antenna, we're a data and analytics company focused on the subscription economy. We study the financial transactions of millions of Americans to understand what they subscribe to and cancel. That lets us count the number of subscribers to all of these services and also provide detailed analytics on their acquisition and churn. If you go to our website, antenna.live, antenna.live, you can download a paper version of this report. And if you have any questions about what you hear today, just reach out to us on email, hello@antenna.live. I'll start by introducing our team. I'm Jonathan Carson, co-founder and CEO of Antenna, joined today by Brendan Brady, our VP of Strategy, and Brooke Kilker, our Manager of Insights. So just an introduction on today's topic. Antenna has long touted the importance of this specialty category. And so these are the smaller niche streamers who are typically focused on a particular audience segment or programming category. So think about anime services like Crunchyroll, British programming services like BritBox, or family fare services like Hallmark. While most of the industry's attention really focuses on the biggest players like Netflix or Disney, Antenna's really always seen specialty players as a critical part for a long-term, robust, and healthy streaming market. And what we've seen over the last couple of years is those larger players have been gravitating more towards a fewer and bigger and more mainstream programming strategy. And that's left flanks open for specialty players around these hyper-focused targets that more deeply address particular audience groups' interests. And that focus is really paying off. So we're seeing growth slow down amongst the largest players. But meanwhile, growth is really holding steady amongst the specialty players, and they're growing at a much faster rate than the premium category. About 1 in 3 total American streaming consumers have now tried a specialty service, and that rate is growing rapidly. We've seen 12 million new subscribers entering the specialty category just in the past year. Specialty growth is also really linked to third-party distributors. It's a very unique story. It's particularly strong in so-called channels environments and especially strong with Amazon. We estimate that Amazon Channels drives over half of the specialty category. Roku and YouTube are newer players in that channel space, but specialty acquisition is growing rapidly there as well. Finally, we're going to talk about new services. A lot of people in the market thought that the days of new streaming launches were over. They were really wrong. Last fall, we saw very successful launches for Fox and ESPN in the category, but we also saw multiple new specialty services coming to market. We're going to highlight today, especially Howdy and The Wonder Project. So it's an exciting time in general for the category. Let's get into it. Okay, so Antenna estimates specialty category now has over 40 million total subscriptions, and that's up 14% year over year, pretty consistent with the growth we saw last year, which we tagged at 15%. That growth rate is significantly higher than the 6% growth rate that Antenna measures for the premium category in the past year. And the growth has really been quite steady. So we see 9 out of 10 of the past quarters with positive net adds. So Antenna calls this chart our volatility chart. The green bar on the top represents gross adds. The red bar on the bottom represents cancels for the period. And the dark bar in the middle represents the net adds. So for example, last quarter, Antenna estimated 11.2 million gross adds for specialties, 9.4 million cancels, and so a resulting 1.8 million net adds. So that's 1.8 million subscriptions of growth for the category. Now, Q1 of 2026 was down just slightly, but every other quarter since the start of 2024 has been positive for specialty. All right, to dig deeper into the category dynamics, I'm going to throw it over to Brooke.
Thanks, Jonathan. A quick look at who's actually driving that acquisition Jonathan just mentioned here. We're taking a look at Specialty SVOD share of gross ads broken out by service. You'll notice that Crunchyroll, AMC Plus, and MGM Plus are leading the pack, but the real story here is how diffused the rest of these bars are in our chart. We have a lot of smaller niche services all pulling in meaningful volume and meaningful gross ads. That's exactly why the specialty SVOD category can continue to put up double-digit growth even at this size. We've got Crunchyroll and HiDive for anime, AMC Plus and Shudder for horror and genre TV, BritBox, BBC for British programming. So it's easy to see why so many people can keep finding their way into specialty. There's really an audience for everybody. One of the key metrics we look at here at Antenna is churn rate. And what's really interesting is for specialty SVOD, churn rate is stabilizing. This slide shows monthly churn rate by vertical from January 2024 through June of this year. And you'll notice a clear seasonal pattern. Churn ticks up around January and again every September. And these both align up with Black Friday promotions and Amazon Prime Day promotions, which typically run 2 ultra cheap month intro deals. These cancels then are showing up right on schedule when these 2-month windows close 2 months after the promotion. And while these promotions are a great way for these specialty services to attract new users, they are driving a fair amount of cancels. That seasonality also shows up in our premium SVOD vertical too. It's just not as pronounced as it is for specialty. It's worth noting that the difference between premium and specialty churn rate at the end of June was only 3 points. And historically, this gap has been a bit of an optical illusion. Premium's average churn rate gets pulled down significantly by a large base of longer tenured subscribers. Think services like Netflix, who have been around for years and their users barely churn at all. Specialty doesn't quite yet have that same level of tenure amongst all of its services, so its average naturally will run a bit hotter. Zooming out, though, from the seasonality, the real headline here is the trend. Specialty is currently sitting at 7%, premium at 4%. And while there's a gap, it's smaller than these numbers might suggest, and it continues to narrow as the category matures. While stabilizing churn is great news for the vertical, let's also take a look at survival rate for each vertical. This slide shows survival rate for June 2024 to June 2025 gross ads and what percentage are still subscribed each month thereafter. You'll notice 2 things. First, at month 4, about half of those gross ads are still subscribed. And second, at 12 months, survival rate for our specialty SVOD is 27% versus 35% for premium. This is a very similar story to what we've seen historically. Specialty has always run a steeper drop-off curve than premium in the early months. And it makes sense given all of the 2-month promotions we just saw on the previous slide. But the takeaway now is since churn is stabilizing, the focus for specialty SVOD can be on retention in that early 90 to 120 day window where this steep drop in survival is happening for these gross ads. So moving on from loyalty to growth, one of the key points of the specialty SVOD is that 1 in 3 streaming consumers have tried a specialty SVOD. What we're looking at here is of everyone who has subscribed to any premium or specialty SVOD service, what percent has transacted with specialty at least once? For Q2, that number is 35%, up 10 points from 25% back in the first quarter of 2024. The key thing to take away from this chart, it's not just that the percentage of consumers who have transacted with specialty is growing. It's also that the total streaming base, so the blue bars in this chart underneath, is growing as well. So we've seen this dynamic before. Total streaming transactions grow and specialty transactions base grow. But since there are two growth engines stacking on top of each other and the specialty transactor base is growing even faster, that shows that specialty is capturing a bigger piece of a ever-growing bigger pie. And here are the numbers underneath all of that growth. What we're looking at here is new consumers entering the specialty category for the first time by quarter. And you'll notice that it's been very steady in the 2.5 to 3 million range. And that Q2 this past quarter, we hit 3.3 million, the highest ever for the period. If you add that up over the past year, it's about 12 million consumers first trying a specialty SVOD and roughly 28 million for the entire time period. This volume of new entrants continues to stay consistent and even grow quarter after quarter and does not show signs of a decline or plateau. So in short, people are still trying specialty SVOD for the first time as consumers are continuing to search for plenty of niche content. And finally, we'll take a look at our specialty SVOD consumers by the number of specialty services they've ever subscribed to for the last quarter. And you'll see that 61% of specialty SVOD consumers have only tried one specialty SVOD. But what's more interesting is the flip side of that, which leaves about 2 in 5 of our specialty SVOD consumers have actually sampled 2 or more specialty services. That shows that there's real headroom to grow in that cross-subscription behavior even further. So you can imagine common combinations like Crunchyroll and High Dive have high overlap, and BritBox and BBC, which is no surprise, and show off together. But it confirms once someone has already explored a niche, they have areas to explore and pick up a second service in that same space. All of this raises the natural next question is where does all of the exploring actually happen? And for specialty, discovery is a little bit different. So next, I'll hand it off to Brendan, who's going to walk through distributors for specialty SVOD.
Thanks, Brooke. So we wanted to spend a moment clicking in further to distribution specifically in the specialty SVOD space. Here we're looking at share of subscriptions by distributor from Q2'24 to Q2'26. Across the 31 specialty services included in this report, Amazon Channels is responsible for 59% of those subscriptions as of the close of Q2'26. Subscriptions via Amazon Channels are up 35% year over year to reach nearly 25 million specialty subscriptions through the platform. During that same period, the Roku channel became our second largest distributor of specialty SVODs, growing 125% year over year to now reach around 4 million subscriptions. It's important to note that Antenna does not cover direct distribution in all cases for these apps, and so if anything, those trends are understated on the direct channel. So if Amazon Channels is the front door to this category, the question is, what do people pick when they walk through that front door? Here we're looking at every subscriber who is new to Amazon Channels, sorted by the very first service that they signed up for through that ecosystem. 2 things to call out. First, this funnel is getting bigger. 13.5 million new to Amazon subscribers in the past 12 months, up from 12 million the year before. Second, a specialty service was the first thing that 45% of these people bought in Q2'26 as that first destination within the platform. That's the high for the period on this chart. Specialty has run between 35 and 45% for about 2.5 years, and it's certainly sitting at the top of that range now. It's important to note that we've broken out Fox One and Peacock, as those are also new and impactful entrants to the Amazon channels ecosystem as of late, certainly bolstering that sports offering within the platform. So Amazon is certainly an impactful distributor in the specialty SVOD category, but it is not the only game in town. Here we're looking at gross additions across two very interesting distribution platforms in the specialty SVOD space. On the left-hand side, we're looking at specialty gross ads through the Roku channel. These are up 59% year over year into Q2'26, and that growth is largely driven by Howdy, MGM Plus, and AMC Plus. On the right-hand side, we're looking at YouTube primetime channels. This has been growing around 40% the past several quarters, of course off a smaller base, as you could see. The primary drivers of this growth within the YouTube primetime channels ecosystem are Crunchyroll, MGM Plus, and AMC Plus as well. It is also important to note that we are just looking at specialty entertainment SVODs here, and so the YouTube primetime channel stats, for instance, do not include things like NFL Sunday Ticket. As we've kind of mentioned throughout this call, there have been two new and exciting entrants to the specialty category. We have Howdy and The Wonder Project each launching. Howdy launched in August and The Wonder Project in October. And here we're looking at those cumulative signups. So how has that demand come in over time since these launches? And you can see it's been quite great. Around 5 million signups cumulatively across these services since their launches. There's also a distribution story within this slide. If we follow that gold Howdy line, you can see it reaches an inflection point in March 26, where the shape of its growth in terms of new signups coming in the top of the funnel goes up and to the right. In that March period is when Howdy no longer was exclusive to the Roku ecosystem and actually opened the aperture on its distribution and began to participate within Amazon Prime Video channels. Of course, that last cut centered on the top of the funnel, so how did these new signups come in? Which is half of this battle in specialty SVOD. Then the question becomes loyalty, and so we thought it would be interesting to take a look at some of these new cohorts around these new launch service, Howdy and The Wonder Project, and we've compared that to a specialty SVOD benchmark. You could see that at month 10, Howdy, for instance, paces 8 points ahead of its specialty SVOD benchmark. Now, it's important to call out, too, that Howdy is a service that comes in at a lower price point, right? And so they can certainly make that LTV up over time with strengthened loyalty. And last, we were keen to know who are the consumers coming into these new services, both Howdy and The Wonder Project. And so here we're looking at the subscription bases for each of these services, and we've called upon our demographics data to look at these subscriptions cut by age. So on the left-hand side, we're looking at the general population, and then on the right-hand side, we have each of these services broken out. What we found is that 52% of Howdy's base falls into that 55 and up age category. That is 13 points ahead of the general population. And so we certainly see Howdy as well as The Wonder Project over-indexing in that 55 plus group. Great. Well, thank you everyone for joining. If you would like this data monthly, please do subscribe to The Signal. The QR code is on the screen here or at antenna.live. And anything at all, please do reach out to us at hello@antenna.live or straight to any of the three of us on this webinar. Thank you very much.